Bobby Shoemaker, Andrew Calvano. It's Tournament Talk on the Tournament Edge for Friday, July 29th. We've got 2 at Saratoga this week and 2 more at Del Mar. And Andrew, let's get right into it. And we're going to start this week out west where the turf meets the surf. It's Del Mar Race 7. It's a $65,000 allowance optional claimer. It's 1 mile in the dirt for 3-year-olds and up, a field of 10. And that's a lady. The 10 horse is your 3-1 morning line favorite. It's John Sadler. It's Santiago Gonzalez. Your thoughts on this horse being the favorite, and how do you think he'll fare in this contest?
Yeah, this one was a tough one to read. I mean, it took this filly a while to break her maiden. Finally got it right, and I believe the 6th try there was on odds-on favorite. Was facing orders that day, so you got to give her respect for that win. Then tries the Summer Oaks, a Grade 2 race. Faces Songbird. You know, we say time and time again, these horses face Songbird. What are you going to do? Drops back in class today, and it looks to be like the one to beat, but in this field, I just have a tough time landing on a favorite here. And I think there's a lot of options that you can get around with this favorite. You know, some things I like about this one, though, is the John Sadler barn, clicking near 30% to start the Del Mar meet, and the fact that she was a $200,000 Keeneland September purchase off a $40,000 City Zip sire fee.
Andrew, something I wanted to mention to you about the favorite, though. I understand that she raced against Songbird, but tell me a spot in that race that she was ever competitive. She saves ground, and she got dump trucked, and I could argue that mile win that broke her maiden was slower than other horses who broke their maiden in this race recently. Your thoughts on that?
No, and I agree with you, and you know, like I said, many weeks we talk about horses that run behind, Tepin or Catch a Glimpse or Songbird. It doesn't mean just because they're facing those horses that they're a next out winner.
Right.
Some horses are just go in those races and look to pick up a check. Try to run second or third and just get some money. So, with that being said, you're absolutely right, Bob. This horse is beating 10 1/4 lengths behind Songbird, and Santiago Gonzalez may have just packed it in at one point. And it's a respectable race, and obviously you got to respect the class drop. But like I said, Bob, I just think there's so many other options you have here, especially in tournament play. This one's going to be one of the later races. You're definitely going to want to find a price here. And with that being said, I went to number 5, Gracie Ragazza. I really like this one getting back into the company she's faced with for some time here. And although she was kind of running evenly for most of those races, she did have a couple races and run into some next out winners. The race I like to see here is the one going back to February 12th at Santa Anita. That was a pretty good race, and she finished 4th behind 2 Taps, who went on win next time out. This one saved ground, just an awkward trip, but the number came back really well there. It came back to 76, and that ranks pretty competitively here. Obviously her last win comes April 16th at Los Al, and we talk about these Los Al races. They're tough to read. It's a very quirky track, so although it's good to see a win there, it's only 1 point higher on a buyer from her 4th place finish, so that just goes to say. So I'm not looking too much into that. But drops back in class last time out, $32,000 open claiming, crushes the field by 3 lengths, beats another horse, Big Break in this one. Mark Ladd puts her back up. Mark Ladd's off to an awesome start here. 5 wins out of 14 horses, 11 out of 14 in the money. The focus, I'm focusing here, 7 for 4, 4 for 7 with the mile distance. In the money 6 out of 7 times. This one loves the mile here. Loves the track, finished the money as well. And Kent Sormo brought home a big price for me in last week's Tournament Talk, so I'm hoping we can get back on my back here again, and we can bring this one home. But I think the pace sets up just perfectly for the 5 here, and hopefully they're ready to roll come top of the stretch.
And you mentioned Kent Sormo. It's got to make you feel good that a horse that won a claiming race last time out with DeSormo that now steps up an allowance company and DeSormo stays aboard. Kent obviously could probably ride just about any horse in this field because he's super talented and seems to be getting his life in order. For him to stay aboard, it's got to make you feel pretty good.
Yeah, without a doubt here. And, Kent Sormo's a great value rider out there. Rarely do you see him on, the 8 to 5s, the 6 to 5. You'll catch him on these 6 to 1 shots, these 8 to 1 shots that are live out of a hot barn like Mark Ladd. So,
right.
I mean, the trainer percentage, they don't really team up that much, but when they do, I mean, they're winning near 50% of the time with a positive ROI. So, it's just some good things to see here.
It is a trainer's game, as you've mentioned many times, and Glad is off to a hot start with a jockey who's been running in the money with a lot of good priced horses. I saw this being a mad dash for the lead early, Andrew. I think this is going to be a very hot pace, and I do think it's going to set up for something from off of it. I think it sets up perfectly for the 1, the 5, and maybe even the 6. And if I'm going to take a horse that's going to be coming from off the pace and is going to have to maneuver himself through traffic, there's no one more that I trust on this circuit than Rafael Bejarano. And he's riding the 1 horse, Take It Easy, Please. I just like how this horse is finished. I really like the last effort. I know he lost to a horse in this race, but I do think Desert Madame is going to be compromised because of the hot pace. He's just a finisher. If you look at the numbers and time form, that last quarter mile, he's coming home very strongly. I thought the best race that this horse has ran yet was its last start with Rafael aboard. That probably doesn't surprise you. Again, I think the pace is going to set up perfectly for the 1. I like how he finishes. I like Bejarano. I like Richard Baltas. I think this horse has every opportunity to win, and I'll roll with Bejarano in hopes of setting it up for a bigger price in my tournaments.
Without a doubt, and I was a big fan of the 1 here. I was just afraid that the price would go down from 4 to 1, but Bob, I got ultra respect for your top pick here. You know, and going back, like you said, Desert Madame, that last race, I mean, Bob, go back to that race there. I mean, that horse walked on the front end.
Right.
I mean, walked.
Right.
Had it her own way. It was a short field. She was only facing 4 of the horses, and she good for her. She ran away with the race. But like you said, there's positives to take out of the Take It Easy, Please. Take out of that race there. Sometimes that's just the way it is. So I think you landed on a very good horse here. The buyers on my end, Bob, and for the viewers, Tom's a big time form guy. I use DRF, and I go by the buyers here. All the buyers are increasing race by race, so I think we land on 2 pretty solid horses. Bob, would you see it? Obviously, it's a mad dash for the pace. I see the same thing. What horses do you see going out to the front end?
9, 8, 4, 3, 2. I think all of those horses want to be on the lead. Can they all get there? We'll see. But I've watched some races at Del Mar recently where they'll go 5 wide if they have to, if their horse wants the lead. And I've seen that, and I think that there's a big possibility of it being that way today. And the more horses that get to the front, I think that the better it benefits us. I wanted to ask you about 1 horse here, and that's Swissarilla. Again, I know this horse wants the lead and is going to need it, and I think at the end of the day is going to be compromised because of the pace. But you got to look at some of these races this horse has run. I don't know what you're seeing from a buyer speed figure perspective, but this horse has run in some really fast races and has competed well, and I think you could argue more talent than any horse in this race. The problem is the pace doesn't set up for it.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. I just circled a couple buyers here. Dating back to that March 27th race, that's an 81 buyer. That's only 1 point off of number 10's maiden victory. So like you said, Bob, does have the talent, just doesn't go her way sometimes. The low percentage barn, the low percentage jockey kind of scares me off there. And it's just going to have it up against with the pace set up. Bob, a horse, I know you mentioned the 4 would go out to the lead, and I saw the same thing. I'm glad we're on the same page there. I think definitely Gary Stevens is going to have to be aggressive with that horse.
Yes.
And that's just another horse going out to the front end, especially with number 7 there. So definitely something's going to come off the pace here, and I think we land on 2 solid horses. 1
more, because I think this horse is going to get play through the window, and tournament players that are listening to our show are going to consider this horse. Savannah Sky, another Baltas horse, ridden by Victor Espinoza. I believe it's the 6 horse. That horse is also going to get a pace setup, and I looked hard at the 6 and almost pulled the trigger, but at the end of the day decided with Bejarano in the 1. Your thoughts on the 6 horse? Do you think the horse is good enough to contribute to this race and possibly win it?
Yeah, and this is my thing on number 6, Savannah Sky. I thought she was going to get more bet off that 7-2 morning line because this is a wide open field, so she could take some money. She's raced perfectly with this company. I think she's just a hanger. And I'm not going to take a short price. It's Victor Espinosa. I'm not going to take a short price with a high percentage barn on a horse I know is going to hang on me late. But the pace does set up for it. And Bob, before we go to the next one, I have to ask you about, I took a look underneath at least at number 2 for Vent for May. This is what I got here. This one goes back to the dirt. Obviously had no care for the turf whatsoever. If you go 2 backwards in an overnight stakes, tried to set the pace. It got taken away from her. She was beaten 12 lengths. She's taken up, held up there by Kenta Sorma. But I thought that maiden special weight back on March 27th was pretty impressive, and she was the odds-on favorite that day. And I think this is also a horse that could come late, dating back. If I'm looking at her maiden special weights, where she was sitting off the pace, I think this is another horse that could come rallying late to close out some tries at a huge price.
I think the horse is going to go to the lead. I really do believe that. And if there is a horse that I'm going to put underneath in exotics, it's going to be Swisserilla, the horse I talked to you a little bit about earlier. I think that's the horse that I would want. But at the end of the day, I honestly think that we're on the right type style horse here. We want something from off of it because they could really compromise each other early. So Andrew's on the 5-horse Grassi Vergazza. I decided to land on the 1-horse Take It Easy Please. Andrew's horse is 6-1 morning line. Mine is 4-1 morning line. Del Mar Race 9, $36,000 starter allowance. It's 1 mile on the turf, Andrew. 3-year-olds and up. It's a field of 11. Foray, the 8-horse, 3-1 morning line favorite. John Sadler, Victor Espinoza. Thought there was a lot of horses you could make a case that was better than this one. Your thoughts on the favorite?
And I agree with you too. And I'm not willing to take a short price on a horse that is coming out of a Delaware circuit that really isn't that strong. And granted, there was a 75 buyer that day. She was facing maiden claimers there. She had her own way on the front end. I don't think she'll have that today. I don't see the pace going too hot as the last race, but I think she will have some company on the front end here. And just once again, we're looking at an 11-horse field. There's no need to take a short price on a horse that you know is going to have company on the front end. I think the 4 is going to go out with her. I think that's her main threat. With that being said, I look for something not too far off the pace, but sitting about the second shelf here, and that's number 10, Materialistic. I like this one's last turf start. It was a big open field. She was kind of covered early. Then when she found room, she was 4 wide, and she was making a good rally in the center lane there. That was kind of a blanket finish that day. All-Star Parade was beating the neck, finished second, came back to win his next out start. Peter Earn is going off again here. He likes it. This is a jockey that it's a low percentage jockey, but you're guaranteed a big price here. And I'm just looking. I'm interested in the horse here. 2-back, July 14th, big bullet drill there, and gets quicker going 5 furlongs on July 21st, finishes 4:50 that morning. So this is essentially second off of a pretty, a small freshening here, but I'm just hoping this one has horse, is not too wide going into that first turn, is covered up a little bit, and makes one run down the top of the lane.
Your thoughts on the 1-horse Royalist, Bejarano aboard. This horse certainly took a monster step forward from a speed figure standpoint last time out with a 103 time form U.S. speed figure. The best hit it run before that was a 96. This horse looks like a horse on the improve. Almost pulled the trigger with this horse, but I couldn't take him simply off that last effort, considering he could be fit to bounce this race. But I think a player. Your thoughts on the 1?
Yeah, and a wise person always told me that any horse dropping in from allowance to a starter group or a claim group, if they don't win the race, there's a problem. And that last out start, granted, she was racing a lot. He was racing a lot, here, in a short period of time. Maybe this horse, just had enough of it. Like last race, I just think this horse is going to get bet. I don't think 4-1 is going to exist here. So I'm going to lay off for that reason. But I do think the horse is very talented, and hopefully the freshening will do him well. But those are my thoughts on number 1, Royalist.
I thought that this race was going to be similar to last race as far as a lot of horses compromising each other on the front end. I certainly think Foray's going to be on the front. I thought you made a great point about the 4-horse as well. Nevertheless, I think there's a lot of horses in here that want to be on the lead, and I don't think that this is the greatest group of horses, and I don't think that they'll be able to maintain the speed in which they're going to go early in this race. So I landed on a horse, Andrew, that ran very well in its debut in this country, and that start was good enough to beat anything in here, and that's the 2-horse Bronzino with Flavian Pratt aboard. This horse, again, was, I thought, very impressive for this group on March 20th. Hadn't raced in 158 days. I thought performed very well, finishing third, beat 2 1/4 lengths. I don't understand the move to dirt on May 21st. Horse clearly didn't like it. Last start, I think, would have won the race. but lacked room at the 8th pole and was not able to stretch its legs the way he wanted to and win it. I think this horse is the best horse in the race. Will sit second or third shelf, depending on how fast they go. Make one run. Huge jockey upgrade from Blanc to Flavien Prat. For what it's worth, I think this horse is probably the most talented horse in the race. I think March 20th shows that. Back on the turf where it wants to be. Barring a bad trip, and you're getting a tremendous turf jockey, I think this horse will win the race.
Yeah, and this one, when I did the morning line odds, I had this one as the favorite and the horse to beat for sure. You know, Bob, like you mentioned, going 2 back, tries the dirt, stumbles at the start. Just throw that race out of there. You know what? This horse coming out of Ireland and France, really no reason to be on dirt. So I'm just going to cross that race out. Like you said, the U.S. debut was very strong. And sometimes these horses, they need a start on U.S. soil. And if they win first time out, it's usually when you have a freak situation. But this one was coming late. Split flows. Good to see him make some good room through traffic there. Loses to a next out winner who won the race. Last out, same kind of thing. Lacked room, but found room. It was running late. It was just a little bit too late.
Right.
Like you said, huge hockey upgrade here, and that's going to be the difference here. Flavien Prat, more of an aggressive rider down the lane than Bryce Blanc, obviously. I just think this one goes off the morning line favorite and 100% the horse to beat here. But that 83 buy on that U.S. debut will be tough to top here.
Your thoughts on Broken Up? Tyler Bayes aboard. It's the 9 horse. I thought, Andrew, before the trainer changed, and obviously that is a big difference, that this horse ran some races that if the pace is hot like I thought it would be, could set it up maybe to run underneath. If you go back to the March 20th effort, the same race that Bronzino was in, angled, pulled a little bit, was in tight. Obviously, when you're a closer, you're going to endure some trouble. I didn't know what you thought about this horse at 15-1. Is it a horse you completely throw out, or a horse that you say, hey, with the right setup and a little bit of luck, could be a player?
Yeah, and I was going to use this horse underneath. I just don't see this horse winning the race, unfortunately, unless things really speed up front for him.
Right.
His lone win comes at Golden Gate, and though, sometimes those numbers will translate when you come to Southern California, I can really only trust a couple of trainers who make that move, such as Jerry Hollendorf or Richard Mandela, who originally had this one in his care. But, we're going back here. It's hard to trust that race looking back at it here. Went back to Golden Gate, couldn't even win up there in the same conditions here. It's a horse that you can use underneath at a big price. This horse would definitely be an overlay, more like 20-1 here. So if you're looking to play a try, keep some horses on top. It's definitely a horse you can look to underneath. I just don't think he has what it takes to win. Any
other horse in here at a price that you think could upset the apple cart or finish in the money and make some guys some money underneath that play the exotics that we talk about so often here on Tournament Talk?
Yeah, I thought the 11 could be definitely a player running late. But Ace has to set up for this one, but gets Joe Talamo a little bit of a though he's in a cold streak here.
Right.
He is a very underrated jockey. It's an upgrade from what this horse has had on his back for a while now. Mike Pipe, I respect him. First time gelding, that's always something to look at. That
Sure.
just really changes a horse. And the layoff, Mike really doesn't have his horses, on the bench for this long, but he does click 21% when it is a long layoff here. So that's some good things to see. The workouts are progressive. So I think this is a horse, if the pace sets up for him, could be a price underneath as well.
Andrew's on the 10 materialistic. I sided with the 2-horse Bronzino. Andrew's horse 10-1. Mine 7-2. Okay, Andrew, let's go to upstate New York, Saratoga at the Spa, and it is race 8 on the card. That's where we'll start tonight. It's $85,000 allowance optional claimer going 2 turns on the turf, specifically a mile and 3/16. For 3-year-olds and up, it's a field of 12. Andrew raised the bar. The 5 horse is your 3-1 morning line favorite, and it's similar to what we said last week on the show. It's Chad Brown, it's Javier Castellano, it's going long on the turf. How can you argue with this horse being the favorite?
No, and he definitely can. Just look at the races this one's running in. Was in competition of grade 1 and grade 3 levels.
Yep.
Loses last out to American Patriot, who went on to win next out. So it's good to see that. You got the top jockey team, top jockey trainer team on the circuit here. And this horse will be rattling late. I don't know if it's just me, but I haven't brought in too many Chad Brown horses. The only Chad Brown horse I brought in was opening day in the last race.
Well, he sets the bar so high, Andrew, and we're so used to him dominating, and he did dominate at Belmont Park. That was an unreal performance he put on that entire meet. He's not lived up to his expectations, but you're right. I mean, he's had a lot of horses that went off at under 5-1, under 3-1, and he has not lived up to expectations.
And generally on this meet, obviously Saratoga, whatever it is, whatever's on the soil, the favorites are just, they're hard to win. But
right.
I mean, this one's had, Chad Brown's had some horses that you can definitely say this horse should have won the race. He even had one this past Thursday that Texting really should have won that race there. But I think, there's so much more value in this race.
Sure.
I mean, and just going off the last couple of days, I mean, you have a 12-horse field. Why would you want to settle on a horse that's going 8-5? It has a lot of talent, sure, but, I mean, Saratoga gives you so much more to offer here. I looked at a horse, Bob, I don't know how much you take into track bias.
A lot.
Yeah, and speed really hasn't been holding, on the dirt 100%. I noticed the turf race, but the speed doesn't seem to be doing too sharp on the turf. I think the only couple winners from the speed have been in these maiden races, and that's a different ballgame where horses are inexperienced and they don't understand the concept of running down other horses. So in a race like this, I'm looking for something that's sitting right off the pace. I know has a talented late kick here, and will hopefully run him down. With that being said, I found a horse that's number 7, Hunter O'Reilly. Gets a serious jockey change. Johnny Velasquez here goes second off the layoff from James Toner. Was last seen in the Remsen, the Grade 2 stakes at Aqueduct. Luis de Mohamed, Flexibility, Gift Box, all credible horses. His two starts last year on the turf. He had one over this course in a 83, made in a special weight. Finishes third between Isotherm, who goes on Breeders' Cup participant. Life Imitates Art. Big, strong horse in the Chad Brown barn. So it's good to see the competition this one's running at. Comes out in the same race as Raise the Bar here. And I think this one was just tucked in a little too inside. Had a clear path, but Louis Size just couldn't get him to switch leads, couldn't run over him. And he may have just needed that race, first time out of the James Toner barn, sure, but James Toner offers a lot of value in the New York circuit here. Like I said, you get Johnny Velasquez, this one's going to be sitting right off the pace. I don't see it going too crazy, but I do see a couple horses out there that hopefully come top of the stretch like many of the turf winners have done so this far at Saratoga. This one's ready to roll to the top of the stretch.
It is calling for a bit of rain today, Friday, and that could change things up, both dirt and turf. And you make very valid points about speed not holding on either. I'm just going to try to go against the grain here, Andrew, and win with a horse that's going to go wire to wire. I look very long at your 7-horse Hunter O'Reilly, and I think the horse did need the race, and if the horse could have switched leads for Luis, probably would have won, and you wouldn't be looking at 8-1 morning line. But nevertheless, I sided with the horse on the rail in a race that I don't see a lot of pace in, and that's the 1-horse Captain Moss at 10-1 morning line. I mean, this horse, since going to the turf, has been a different racehorse. He's 2 for 3. And I think the best race that the horse ran was the race in which he lost, May 28th, to Tale of Fancy by a head. And I'm a big fan of Tale of Fancy. This horse has chased some legitimate paces at Belmont Park, and I don't see any horse that's been on the lead in their previous races that have been near as fast as what Captain Moss has quote-unquote chased or been very close to. And with Manny Franco drawing the rail, I think he's going to send this horse to the lead and try to go wire to wire. Englehart's, he's been hot the last 60 days or so. Manny Franco's strong suit, I believe, is on the turf. I think the rail is a blessing for me here with this selection because if Manny's reading the racing form, he's got to see there's not too much early speed in here. Just take the horse to the lead, Manny. See how far you can go. There's talent here, Andrew, and he showed that he can compete at this level with that May 28th effort. This is a good racehorse on the turf, and they're going to have to pass him coming down the stretch. And if a horse like Raise the Bar or the 6-horse Circus Performer, who I believe will both be overbet, if they come get me from off the pace at a short price, so be it. Captain Moss for me, the 1-horse, 10-1 morning line.
Okay, here it is. Tournament Talk special right here. 1-7, 1-7 all. The original first pick, Bob. Everything you said about this horse, my only problem was the speed. But Bob, let me get into this horse. That May 28th race, that was a Tournament Talk edition. I was on that horse, just lost by a head. Like you said, comes Tell Fancy goes back, wins that. This one drops the starter allowance, wins clearly. Best bet that day for me. I mean, this horse is something to fear. Like I said, Bob, it was just me and the bias I was a little bit afraid of. But I think if there's any two horses that are the most talented that could beat out the Chad Brown horses and the Todd Pletcher horse that will also get bet, it's the two horses we're on. Bob, I'm going 1-7, 1-7 all. I might play for $4. I'm that confident.
I am probably going to play it for $5. So I feel pretty good about it. I was on the fence between the 6 and the 7, but hearing you talk about the 7, and I watched the replay again right before the show started, and the 7 horse is much better than that 8-1 morning line. Let's talk about the 6. Todd Pletcher, Joel Rosario is just, he's an unbelievable jockey who has found himself again, and I've said this many times on the show after that injury. He's obviously a player. He's obviously going to take a lot of money. But where do you see this horse being from a pace perspective? If they're as slow as I think this horse could be 6 or 7 lengths off of it when they go into that final turn.
Yeah, this is a horse where it's tough to really picture where this horse is going to be. If you go back to the April 24th race, yes, this horse was on the lead. That race was 1.5 miles. I think Todd Pletcher just said, send the horse out. Let's try to switch up the tactics today and see how far this one will go. I personally don't think that's what the horse wanted to do. And, I mean, you go to the next start, May 28th. I know that was the same race that Captain Moth comes out of. Bumps at the break, so we don't really know if the horse wanted the lead or not. I think in the last one, he was 3 wide, he was 4 wide. I just don't think this horse wants to be on the front end. I'm kind of hoping that is the case, and this horse is, like you said, Bob, way back and just might be a little bit too late here. I mean, if you're looking back at the April 8th race at Keeneland, look how far this one is out. And then you go back to the maiden race where it did break the maiden with Joel Rosario in October of 2014. Was 10 lengths out and did a fire late, but that was a pretty solid pace that day. I think this horse is going to be way back, and I think it's a horse that can maybe get up for the superfecta for the try, but I think this one is just going to be a little too late for this one.
Yeah, the thing that made me decide he was going to be further back, and you made valid points about the races recently, but April 8th, the horse had no excuse at Keeneland and showed no early speed whatsoever, and that's second off the layoff. And horses run their best, in my opinion, second and third off the layoff, showed no early speed at all. I just don't think this horse has a lot of early speed, and certainly I think 9-2 is not something that you're going to see when this horse leaves the gate because the running lines aren't poor. This horse has been finishing well, and Todd Pletcher and Joel Rosario are the connections.
Yeah, and I just want to make a point out to the viewers, especially for the new guys that are just getting on the webcast here. When we're talking about early speed, especially on the turf, just because you can't get to the front end doesn't mean that you don't have to flash what we call tactical speed. And this horse really lacks it here. Tactical speed, being that this horse can go out to the front but sit 2 lengths off. And that's what you kind of need in these turf races, Bob. And like you said, I just don't see this horse having any bit of speed, let alone early speed. I don't even see tactical speed. A
horse that I am afraid of to a certain degree when it comes to pace that I don't want to see compromise my 1, and that's the 8-horse Harpoon at 20-1, who I do not believe should be 20-1. This horse, Bruce Brown, Junior Alvarado, who's just, you talk about price horse after price horse when it comes to Ken DeSormo. Alvarado is just finding himself on monster prices and not only running well with them, winning with them. This horse has shown some speed in the past. Not sure it's to the level of Captain Moss, but at the end of the day, Andrew, this horse could be a thorn in Captain Moss's side, or they could walk up front, as we've seen many turf races on the NYRA circuit, and this horse could finish in the money. I don't think this horse should be 20-1, and I think this horse could be a player, not only from a pace perspective, but at the end of the day as well. Your thoughts on Harpoon?
Yeah, I originally had this horse 15-1, and like you said, Junior Alvarado, this past Thursday in the 6th race, walked the dog on the front end, brought home a 22-1 shot. You would imagine that this guy wants to do the same thing here. Bruce Brown, Obviously doesn't win a lot. This horse is 3 for 26 lifetime, but does a lot of the dirty work in many of the races that some of these horses exit. So if sent out to the front end, it's just a matter of how long this horse wants to go before, it's down to the bottom of the pack like it usually is the case for this one. But hopefully they're not going too fast where it does compromise your one, because I'm looking for the one as well. So to be honest, I don't think that the one will get too bothered. I've seen the one. I've been on that horse, Captain Moss, for so long, Bob, I can't even begin to explain. Since the very beginning, when that horse was back at claiming levels. This horse has so much more speed. He's been in so many speed duels where, he just says, all right, come on, and blows by. I think the one's a much quicker horse. I understand your concern there, Bob. Obviously, you're on the one here, but I think Harpoon will be a thorn in the side for maybe half the race, and then that's it.
Hopefully you're right, Andrew. You're on the 7, though, going against Captain Moss today. Hunter O'Reilly for Andrew, the 7 horse at 8-1 morning line. I sided on the rail horse, the 1 Captain Moss at 10-1 morning line, hoping he'll stay near that, because if that's the case, this horse will be bet through the window. Saratoga race 9. It's a grade 1 stakes race. It's the Vanderbilt. 6 furlongs on the dirt, Andrew, 3-year-olds and up. It's a smaller field that we don't normally cover here on Tournament Talk, a field of 8, but a deep race to say the least. And the 3-horse Delta Blues Man is your 3-1 morning line favorite. I certainly understand why. Jorge Navarro, this horse is 4 for 4 in his last 4 and has been brilliant on the front end, running some incredible fractions, and that has not mattered. This horse has stayed on. Maybe the waters are a little bit deeper here, Andrew, but I think this horse is certainly the one to beat.
And I agree with you, Bob. And I saw a statistic out. There was a formulated statistic saying that, Todd Pletcher with these moves off the layoff, going back in the Grade 1 company, I mean, it's not even that he rarely wins. He just does not win, especially with his male horses. The fillies are a different situation. And I think Anchor Down's going to go up 9-5 just because he's coming out of that race with Frosted. And if you go 2 back, he crushed in the Winchester. But this race is loaded with speed, Bob. I saw this as the most difficult race to handicap because, yes, Delta Bluesman is the horse to beat and has the speed. But, I mean, who's going to be a thorn in the side here? It looks like half the field. So this is a very tough one for me. And I'm just going to take a chance here. And I'm going to go with Jorge Navarro's other horse. And that's number 2, Catalina Red. Like we said, Bob, speed has not been friendly to the horses here at Saratoga on the dirt. So I'm just hoping Louis Size covers this one early, lets the pace battle ensue on the front end, makes one run late. I mean, this one was the beaten favorite in the True North last time out. And Joking, who got a dream trip off a hot pace, came on flying by. Holy Boss was awesome this race, finished in the money that day as well. But I mean, go back to that May 7th. It's the Churchill Downs handicap there. 1-5 buyer of my end, Bob. Won the race exactly how I wanted to be won today. Sitting second shelf, 1 or 2 lengths off the pace, top of the stretch, making one big run there. Obviously, Jorge Navarro's stats are the same as they are for his other 2 entries here. So it's good to see that. You get Louis Saez. He's a comfortable rider. He's a horse that can bring in some value. I can honestly see this one floating up towards 7-1. I think other horses are going to be betting this race. So being this is one of the later races in the card, I'm hoping the bias stays true, and this one can come running late.
What happened on June 10th, Andrew? He goes off 1-1. I thought he was certainly the horse to beat. Obviously, the rest of the country did as well. And I watched the video today. I thought no excuse. I mean, weak and late, didn't show any desire there inside the 16th pole to win. Loses to Joking, Dad's Cap, and a horse that's in this race, Holy Boss. That's what shied me away. I'm not sure if the May 7th just didn't take everything out of this horse for a while, and maybe that's why he needed to be freshened. But your concern about the June 10th effort and no life after the 16th pole?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. And I was on site that day, and top of the stretch, I thought this horse was gone, and it was a single on not only one of my tickets, but on many tickets as well. And like I said, Joking just got a dream trip out of there. Obviously scratched in the next race that he was going to enter there. But, I mean, you know, a pace battle did kind of ensue on the front end, and it just seemed like this one was sitting pretty, was ready to rock and roll under Javier Castellano. And like you said, Bob, just came up empty. I'm just hoping that the freshening that Roy Navarro excels so much with, will bring this horse back into the figure that I'm seeing on April 9th and May 7th. Obviously, like I just stated that, the freshening angle is the same for the other two horses here, but I want something that's a little bit off the pace. I know that something's not going to get in tight with the pace battle, and hopefully this is the one. But I'm definitely concerned about that June 10th, but I'm hoping the freshening kicks it out.
Fair enough. The 4-horse AP Indian, a horse I wanted to like, a horse that I thought could and will benefit from a pace meltdown if one would ensue. But Andrew, the July 9th trip the race was just given to him by a poor ride by the jockey on marking. Still strong numbers, but I just don't know, Andrew. I think he's going to be bet below 5-1 because of that victory against marking, and a lot of people like marking, including myself. I just think he's going to be shorter of a price than what his form says he should be. Your thoughts on AP Indian, a very perplexing horse to try to handicap.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Bob. And obviously I made the same notes here for the Belmont Sprint. If marking wasn't as wide as he was and just
he wins.
Run the race he should have, this horse loses by 2 or 3 lengths there. I think this horse definitely got a dream trip. I'm going back here. Let's analyze a couple of this one's races. Back on May 14th, if you watch that replay, this horse loses to Delta Bluesman. That may have been the most questionable inquiry, takedown, whatever you want to call it, ever. If you watch it, Bob, I think I was on Delta Bluesman that day, and whatever little sequence I had going on for whatever reason at Monmouth Park. But, definitely, you got to watch it. Delta Bluesman was obviously clear, and this one gets put up, so, and a win there, I guess. But going back to last year, obviously runs in the run happy in the Phoenix, whatever, toss it. But, the horse just ran evenly and wasn't even alive that race. Didn't like the course here, was almost a beaten favorite in the tail of the cat, was 2-1 that day. The point I'm making is that you have to go to these cheaper tracks, parks, the last 2 races in this Memorial Handicap, 100,000 of these back-to-back winners in, the decathlon here at Monmouth Park. I just think he's one of those horses that likes those smaller tracks, likes facing smaller fields. And granted, this is a small field of 8 horses. I'm talking about races with 5 of the horses in them, where one of them, maybe 2 of them are just completely, shouldn't even be in the race. Right. Shouldn't be in the race, and all he has to do is beat out 3 of the horses that are all questionable, in my opinion. I'm hoping this horse gets bet for that Belmont Sprint effort, and nobody's really thinking about what marking should have done in that race. And I'm not playing this horse at all. I think that Belmont Sprint's also going to take a lot out of this horse. The horse has been running 3 races in a short amount of time. I'm not really on this horse, but like you said, Bob, should a pace meltdown ensue? This one will be doing some late running, but
I just don't think he's good enough. Yeah,
I'm in the same boat as you. I just don't think he's good enough. I don't think, obviously, that field of marking and ready for ride, Bob, there were like 4 of the scratches in that race. I'm pretty sure Anchored Down, if I remember correctly, scratched out of that race as well.
Yeah.
This is not that field.
No, it's not. And I feel the same way about Anchor Down. Obviously, different circumstances. I just don't think the horse is good enough. Andrew, I know there's going to be a hot pace in here, and I got ultra respect for Holy Boss, the 5-horse who wants to be on the lead. I'm not sure if he's as fast enough as Delta Bluesman, maybe early, but I know certainly not late. I did everything I could to try to find a horse to come from off the pace and win this race, but there was questions about Catalina Red. I don't like AP Indian. I don't like Anchor Down. I don't think the 7-horse is good enough to come from off the pace and win it. So at the end of the day, I just went with the morning line favorite. I think, and I understand, I know it's another race and another selection going against the grain and going against the history of this racetrack, this meet, but this horse just might be a freak show. I think this horse is the fastest horse in the race. In fact, I don't think it, I know it. And he draws closest to the rail. The only horse that has shown any kind of speed comparable to the 3-horse is the 5, and I don't think he's good enough. I'm just going to hope the 3 gets to the lead, and he's good enough to go all the way, because there's question marks about every single horse in this field that's coming from off the pace. And I'll tell you what, there's not a question mark about Delta Bluesman. He's in great form. He's the speed of the speed. He's the fastest horse to the rail, and I just think he's going to go wire to wire.
And I agree with you, Bob. And it was, I'm on the show, and I don't like to give out favorites, but I'll admit when a horse is, 100% the horse to beat here, and I think that's the case here with the 3. This horse won't be on any. If I'm going pick 4s, I'm playing 2 deep. I'm going 2-3. Like you said, we'll have company on the front end, but this horse is 100% the quickest of the quickest here. This year, 4 in a row, we just count that the Decathlon win. It's a win like it should be. Jaramillo comes up here. I think it's like 60%, something crazy like that, right, with Navarro and Jaramillo. So it's good to see him coming up from Florida rather than Navarro grab one of the other guys here on the circuit here. Just want to make note to you, Bob, he is the second choice. Anchored Down is the 5-2 morning line favorite, just so you know.
My apologies there.
No, I don't care about that. Don't matter.
Well, and in Delta Blues, man, whether or not he is the favorite, he should be the favorite.
We'll go off the favorite.
Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking. So Andrew is on the 2-horse Catalina Red at 5-1, a horse that is certainly going to benefit from a hot pace. Is he good enough? We'll see. I landed on the 3-horse Delta Blues, man. Despite the fact the speed is not held, I think this horse will indeed go wire to wire this time out. Well, that'll do it for this edition of Tournament Talk on the Tournament Edge. As always, Andrew and I hope we found you a plethora of winners. And until next time, and as always, good luck.
Good luck, guys.